Hello everyone. A little while ago, I made a video on this A9 Wi-Fi camera. Now at the time, I was living in this thing, which pretty much has hotel Wi-Fi. You know, where you have to use a web browser to get connected. Now obviously this thing doesn't have a web browser, so I decided to just make the video anyway, after I saw how bad the camera quality was. It's pretty much the same that you find in all of these $5 and under cameras. For some reason, that video blew up, and now I'm on the internet looking like a complete incompetent idiot. Now, that's only semi-true. So here I am, again, with more A9s, and I'm going to make an actual proper A9 video review. So the first thing to get out of the way is that the A9 is not a branded product. This is a generic product made by many manufacturers and therefore has many variations. The apps that my cameras use may not be the apps that your camera specifically uses. Alright, so let's get to opening these. Let's open the big one first. Weird stand thing, micro B cable. The camera, it's actually a different shape. I'm not sure how apparent that is, but it's not even the same shape. The one I originally reviewed has 2 screw holes. This doesn't have any screw holes at all. It is still magnetic. My table is magnetic. The lens seems like it's the same. So this uses a different app, whereas my original used something called the HD IoT camera and or the V99 cam. This one uses the V720 app. Anyway, let's open the smaller one. So there's no packaging in, oh, this one's white. There's no packaging inside. It comes with, oh, another app, the YSX Lite. So this uses a different app as well, and it only comes with a micro B cable. But the lens appears to be the same. As for the shape, this one has a different build as well. So that goes back into how I'm saying that these are all generic products. They're all slightly different. And they're all a nightmare to film because they are oddly shaped. If I compare the SD card slot, you can see how the indents are different between all three. If you look at it from the back, it's also apparent that all 3 builds are slightly different. This one in particular also doesn't have a magnet of any kind. Since everybody expects me to do a how-to guide for some reason, I'm just going to go through this as fast as I can. So up first is the white one. So to turn it on, you obviously hold the on-off button. So after you turn it on your phones then, you're looking for a Wi-Fi network called BAT, followed by a bunch of random numbers and letters. It should also have excellent signal strength because you are adjacent to the hotspot. You should get the message that internet is unavailable. Alright, into the app. So this white one specifically uses the YSX Lite app. Now it needs my location. Also needs all my files. That's great. Upon initial setup, it's already asking me to set it up online so that I can use it as an actual IP camera. I'm not going to do that now. And just like that, if you click on the center button, it also needs your microphone for some reason. If you click on the center button, now you're in the live preview, hopefully. If it won't lag, alright, that's it. You're in the app, and that's all I promised to do. Alright, on to the next one. They all should have a pretty similar setup experience. Alright, so you would turn on the camera. So this one specifically has a flashing blue mode LED. If you hold the mode button, it should start flashing rapidly, and that should mean that the hotspot is now on. Alright, even though it should be on, I'm not seeing anything. Maybe I need to set it up through the app. Anyway, this app is the V720 app. Let's open that. Alright, you gotta agree to their terms and stuff. Let's just follow the instructions. So you would add a device. You would press add device. It's going to need your location. That's wonderful, I suppose. Alright, it's asking me to sign into my Wi-Fi, or not, okay. I don't know what's happening, but it appears to be asking me to sign into my Wi-Fi network. Okay, so it appears that this thing connects via Bluetooth instead of connecting via Wi-Fi hotspot. Alright, it's asking me to set up a name, and it should be done. It's asking me for a microphone for some reason, I'm not sure why. And just like that, I'm in the live feed. Alright, this thing is supposed to have infrared. I doubt it. Alright, so now my lights are off, and as you can see, nothing. This doesn't have any infrared. Alright, for the last one, and just like before, you would hold the on-off button. Is this thing dead too? Are you serious? Alright, never mind. This one doesn't work anymore. It's been like, what, a year, and it's already stopped working on its own. I don't know what's the problem. Maybe it's battery, maybe the button has failed. I have no idea. This thing doesn't work anymore. Alright, less work for me. I'm not complaining. From what I remember though, the setup process was pretty similar to the white one. You would hold the on-off button for it to turn on. You would connect to the signal with your phone. It should be completely unlocked, and it should be at full strength. Once all that is done, you just go back into the app, which is called the HD IoT camera, or the V99 cam on iOS. I left the black one charging overnight, and when I pulled it out this morning, it was at 73%. Where that 20 or so percent went, I have no clue. I don't think it takes more than 8 hours to fully charge this thing, so whatever, I guess there's no quality control. I left this sitting on my windowsill this morning, and it has lasted around 45 minutes. Now, in context of small palm-sized cameras, that's pretty solid. I can't fault that at all. But in context of being a security camera, I don't think an hour or so of battery life is really good. In my opinion, the bare minimum for a battery-powered Wi-Fi security camera is a week of battery life. Now, I know some cameras can go up to a couple months, but look, an hour is kind of terrible for an actual security camera. Before I get a bunch of angry comments saying a week of battery life is completely unreasonable, I just want to mention that I have this Cree Lighting smart home camera that advertises a month of battery life, and it's only about the size of 3 A9s stacked atop of each other. However, I should also mention that I don't really recommend this thing either, because even though it says it's water resistant, there's corrosion on my batteries. I don't know how. I never put this thing outside. I do live in a humid environment though, so I don't really recommend this thing either. Instead of the 20 minutes that my original A9 had, this A9 has 2 minutes of battery life. What makes me say that is that when I'm charging it, the red light never takes longer than 5 minutes for it to disappear. If it takes 5 minutes to fully charge, something terribly wrong is happening. And when I leave it on, and just sitting on my windowsill, the blue on light turns off after 2 minutes of just leaving it there, which means that this thing basically doesn't have any battery life. I'm running into problem after problem after problem with these things. First, the shape is so strange. It's not made to be mounted anywhere. The best bet is the magnet. I mean, what good is this unless you stick it to a wall? Except this one doesn't have a fucking magnet, so I can't mount that. The magnet isn't even that good, so any slight movement and it's falling off the fucking stand. Anyway, the lens on these things has an extremely narrow field of view. Just for comparison's sake, I've put this Akaso Brave 4 and this A9 on the same stairwell, and you can see how much wider the Brave 4 can see. The narrow field of view isn't inherently bad, but this thing has no waterproofing, meaning that it's meant to be used indoors, where there's not a lot of space. And the best lens for the situation is a wide-angle lens. That way, it can capture way more area. So why on earth does this indoor camera have a narrow field of view? It doesn't make any sense. This video is getting way longer than I intended it to. I'm just gonna speed through the other problems. This thing freezes occasionally. There's no input combination that gets it out. All I can do is let the battery run out. As for this one, although I set it to record all day, it only records 1-minute clips, which means that there are a lot of files stored on the SD card. I can see how this is somewhat useful. If you know the exact timing of the event you wish to view, then it's easy to find. But on the other hand, if you don't know the exact time, you're gonna be like me, and I spent like 20 minutes just digging through video files. And I'm going through all of these problems. For what exactly? This camera is basically potato quality. Okay, I think that's enough time spent rambling. With that being said, here is some direct video from the white A9 first. Since this lens has such a narrow field of view, I thought it'd be more useful to have it pointed at this crosswalk, and this is around 30 to 40 feet away from this window. So visually speaking, you should be able to tell that this is pretty bad. Highlights are overblown, shadows are crushed. But when my head passes the pole and the mailbox, it kind of blends in with those objects. So another thing to point out is that the frame rate is also terrible. On the way back, my face appears in the corner for only 2 frames. It's one of those blink and you'll miss it type situations. So here's a better look at my face, and I've gotta say, this has gotta be one of the lowest resolution photos I've ever taken of myself. This feels like the worst 144p known to man. It's officially reported as 640 by 480 though. Now, as this automated car passes by, I want you to try and read what it says. Personally, I think it's completely illegible. It's difficult to distinguish where the sidewalk is, and notice that there's also no detail for the wheels on this white car. According to the video file, this is 25 frames per second, but I doubt that. This feels more like 10 frames per second. I forgot to record audio on this thing. So here we are. Are you amazed? I'm not. I was holding this thing around a foot away, talking pretty normally. It's muffled, and it's quiet. Anyway, let's move on to the black one, and let's look at some video from that. It appears to me that the sensor is pretty similar, but this one handles colors even worse. It's overcast, but it feels like I'm recording in grayscale. So here's a look at a bush, and here's a direct comparison with my main camera. Here's some low light video. It's pretty bad. There's no infrared either. Looking at the crosswalk again, you'll see approximately nothing. So I think I've made it pretty clear that I think these are a bunch of e-waste. Hell, let me just walk you through the perfect scenario where these are somewhat useful. Thieves break in during the day because these are useless at night. Within the hour, I'm being generous, or so, of battery life that these cameras offer. The thieves are also so incompetent that they somehow manage to get caught in the narrow field of view, are so close to the camera that the poor resolution can actually make out some facial features, and that they move so slow that more than 3 frames of them are actually caught on video. Even if all 3 go to plan, if they happen to be armed with flashlights, they can completely blind your camera, and if they just take the camera, you will have no video of their break-in. As a follow-up video, I can spend this time answering some commonly asked questions that I got on the last one. What is the app? If you've been paying any attention to this video at all, you should be able to know that I can't really answer that because every camera is different. I don't know what app your camera specifically will use. Do these cameras work with XYZ third-party apps? The short answer is probably not. The long answer is maybe, if you could configure it yourself somehow. I mean, hell, there are 3 different apps that I had to use for this one video, and I've tried different apps with different cameras, and they don't work with each other's apps at all. Do these cameras have any actual basic security camera features? You know, like infrared lights for night vision or motion detection? The answer is no. Now that I've spent some time with this camera that actually does have NIR motion detection, I can definitively say that these cameras don't have any of the sort. How they are determining motion, I don't know. It's gotta be very primitive though. They also don't have any infrared lights, so that they don't work well at night. What do I mean by it has 15 minutes of battery life? I am being literal. This one has 2 minutes of battery life, my original one has 15 minutes of battery life, and this new black one has around 45 minutes of battery life. Whether you choose to believe me or not, it's up to you at this point. I'm having trouble connecting to the Wi-Fi network. Well, this is a trick I like to use. You turn on the camera, and you have your phone adjacent to the camera, and you go around and walk outside. While every other Wi-Fi signal strength should vary, the only one that should remain constant is the Wi-Fi that is being emitted from this camera. For those of you who've made it this far, I want to thank you all for watching. You can like and subscribe if you want. I don't know. I don't control you.